Pain is a powerful teacher, not the kind you choose, but the kind that shows up whether you're ready or not. It rarely knocks, it barges in, and when it does, it leaves behind lessons that can't be learned from textbooks or lectures. The first thing pain teaches is humility. When everything is going well, it's easy to believe we're in control. But pain reminds us that life doesn't always follow our plans. It strips away the illusion of certainty. And in that vulnerable place, we begin to listen more, judge less, and understand that everyone is carrying something unseen. Then comes patience. Pain doesn't operate on our schedule, it lingers, it waits. And we're forced to wait with it. In a world obsessed with speed and results, pain insists on slowness. It teaches us to breathe through moments we wish we could fast forward, to sit still when everything inside us wants to run. Pain sharpens perspective. When you're hurting, small things no longer seem small. They either vanish or become clear. We begin to recognize what really matters. What we took for granted suddenly becomes sacred. A kind word, a real friend, a quiet moment. Pain turns down the noise so we can finally hear what's true. It also reveals resilience. Most people think strength looks like power, like never breaking. But real strength is found in the person who breaks and still chooses to show up, who doesn't quit even when quitting would be easier. Pain shows us what we're made of, not in comfort, but in the choice to keep going when it hurts. It teaches compassion, too. When you've been through something difficult, you start seeing others differently. You notice the tired eyes, the silent struggles, the stories left untold. Pain makes us gentler, not softer, more aware of the quiet battles being fought around us every day. Another lesson pain teaches is presence. There's something about suffering that pulls you out of autopilot. You stop drifting. You start paying attention to your body, your breath, the weight of the moment. Pain brings you into the now, and sometimes that's where healing quietly begins. And finally, pain teaches us about growth. Not the shiny kind that's easy to post about, but the kind that happens deep inside. Silent, invisible, steady. We grow in the cracks, in the losses, in the moments that nearly break us. Pain plants something in us that comfort never could. No one asks for pain, but if you're in it, or if you've walked through it, know this: it's not wasted. It's shaping you, stretching you, preparing you. You don't have to like it, but you can choose to learn from it, because what pain teaches, no one can take away. Pain has a way of humbling us in a manner that nothing else quite can. When life is running smoothly, it's easy to feel self-sufficient. We believe we're in control, that our effort alone determines our outcomes. But then something unexpected happens: a loss, a failure, a betrayal, an illness. And suddenly, everything we thought we could rely on begins to unravel. In these moments, pain becomes a mirror reflecting not just our limitations, but also our vulnerability. And through that reflection, humility begins to take root. Humility doesn't mean weakness. It doesn't mean thinking less of yourself. It means understanding that you are not invincible, and that the world does not revolve around your plans. Pain strips away the illusion that we can manage or predict every aspect of our lives. It reminds us that we are part of something much bigger, and that our place in it is not guaranteed, not owed, and not immune to change. Consider how pain levels the playing field. It doesn't discriminate. No title, talent, or achievement can shield someone from suffering. In fact, those who seem the most confident or put together on the outside often carry the deepest pain on the inside. This realization teaches us to be slower to judge and quicker to show grace. When you've been brought low by pain, you begin to see others differently, not as competitors or strangers, but as fellow travelers trying to survive their own storms. Pain also humbles the ego. It exposes the parts of us that are overly proud, overly certain, overly reliant on appearance or performance. When pain enters the picture, it's no longer about impressing anyone, it's about surviving. Healing, breathing, and that process raw and unfiltered, can be one of the most authentic experiences of your life. In those stripped-down moments, we reconnect with who we really are, not who we pretend to be. What's more, humility learned through pain opens the door to learning. When we admit we don't have all the answers, we become better listeners. We become more open to help, more willing to grow. Pain teaches us that it's okay to not know, to ask for support, to let someone else guide us when we're lost. In that space, wisdom can finally take root. And perhaps most importantly, pain reminds us that everyone is fighting a battle we can't see. The humility it teaches helps us to move through the world with more gentleness. We stop assuming and we start asking. We stop talking over others and we start truly hearing them, because we know what it feels like to be invisible in our suffering, and we choose not to let others feel the same. So yes, pain is a hard teacher, but through it we learn humility, not as a punishment, but as a path to deeper connection, greater strength, and a more grounded understanding of ourselves and others. Growth is often portrayed as something beautiful, like a flower blooming or a mountain climb. But the truth is, real growth is often uncomfortable, messy, and born from pain. Pain is not something we seek out, yet it is one of the most powerful forces for transformation in our lives. It stretches us in ways that comfort never could. It breaks down what no longer serves us and forces us to rebuild. Stronger, wiser, and more aware. At first, pain feels like a setback. It arrives unexpectedly and disrupts everything we thought was steady. Whether it's the pain of loss, failure, rejection, illness, or heartbreak, it cuts deep. In the beginning, it feels like destruction. Something ends, something hurts, and we're left with the pieces. But it's in the process of putting those pieces back together that growth begins. Not immediately, and not easily, but slowly, quietly, deeply, pain challenges who we are. It tests our beliefs, our values, and our identity. The version of ourselves that existed before the pain may not survive it, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Growth means change, and change often requires letting go of what once felt safe or familiar. Through pain, we begin to see parts of ourselves we didn't know existed. We find strength we didn't know we had. We discover what truly matters. This kind of growth isn't always visible from the outside. In fact, it's often invisible, happening silently beneath the surface. While the world sees someone just getting by, inside there may be an enormous transformation taking place. A shift in perspective, a softening of the heart, a deepening of compassion. These are not changes you can measure with numbers or celebrate with trophies, but they are the kind that change your life forever. Pain also teaches us that growth isn't linear. Some days you'll feel like you've moved forward. Other days you may feel like you're right back where you started. That's okay. Growth is not about constant progress, it's about continuing, even when it's hard. It's about honoring the struggle as part of the journey, not something separate from it. The irony is that while pain feels like it's breaking us down, it's often building something new in its place. A deeper resilience, a quieter confidence, a truer self. It strips away the superficial and brings us closer to what's real about ourselves, about others, and about life. When we look back at the most painful times in our lives, we often realize those were also the times when we grew the most. Not because we wanted to, but because we had to. Pain forces us to evolve. It doesn't give us the option to stay the same. And while we may not choose pain, we can choose to let it shape us into something more whole. We often think of resilience as something loud, unshakable strength, bold defiance, or pushing through without flinching. But real resilience doesn't always look like that. It often looks quiet. It looks like getting out of bed when you'd rather stay under the covers. It looks like showing up to your life even when everything in you wants to give up. Pain doesn't just test our strength, it reveals it. Sometimes it's the only thing that can. When pain enters your life, it changes the way you move through the world. Whether it's emotional, physical, or psychological, pain forces you to confront your limits. And in doing so, it also shows you where you're stronger than you thought. You begin to discover that resilience isn't the absence of suffering. It's the ability to live through it, to keep moving, even if it's just one breath at a time. Resilience isn't about being untouched by pain, it's about refusing to let that pain define or defeat you. It's about being knocked down and choosing to rise again, not because it's easy or glamorous, but because there is still something in you that believes in the possibility of healing, in the worthiness of hope. Pain doesn't build resilience like a coach might train an athlete. It uncovers it. It strips away the distractions and reveals the core of who we are. Pain teaches you that you can bend without breaking, that you can feel lost without being gone, that you can carry sorrow and still keep going. Resilience shows up in the smallest of ways, in the way you speak kindly to yourself on a hard day, in the way you ask for help when you need it, in the way you keep going when the path is unclear. It's not always heroic. Sometimes it's just surviving, but that survival is powerful. There's also something about pain that deepens your understanding of what it means to be human. It connects you with others who have suffered. It helps you see that strength doesn't always come from muscles or motivation. It often comes from simply enduring. And once you've endured, you carry that quiet strength with you. You may still feel fragile, but you know now that you won't break easily. You've been tested. You've made it through. Pain reshapes you, and resilience is what carries you through that transformation. It doesn't erase the scars, but it does help you wear them with a kind of dignity. Not because you loved the pain, but because you learned who you were in the middle of it. Because you realized that while pain can shake you, it cannot erase you. So when pain comes, and it will, let it show you who you are beneath the surface. Let it reveal the strength you forgot you had. Because resilience isn't something you perform, it's something you discover, again and again. Each time you choose to stand up in the face of pain and keep going.